What's up, guys? Welcome to the shop. We're going to do a quick shop tour today. We'll walk around. I'll show you how I set this whole place up. I know we just did a shop tour not too long ago of the old space, but now we are pretty much fully set up in the new space. So here we go. Material comes in, we bring it here, we cut it here, break it down at the miter saw station, blah, blah, blah. All right, so what do I even want to talk about? If you just want to go around and get some clips of it, like all the stuff. All right, so we'll start in this corner of the shop. We've got the bay door here, which is really nice because the outside, it is like the exact height of the van. So I can back the van up and just basically walk in, pull material out, put cabinets in there for delivery. So that is really sweet about this shop. The thing that's not so great is that it's wood floors, plywood floors, so I cannot drive my forklift in here anymore, but I kind of set it up to where I don't really need it like I did in my other shop. So we've got this giant compressor here, which is not hooked up yet. This is going to be going in the back room, hopefully here within the next couple of weeks. But we got the miter saw station here, so whole idea with this is material comes in the door and then we can get it broken down or put on the racks and then moved through the shop. And then all these cabinets are just extra storage of stuff. I have a whole video on the miter saw station. You guys can check that out. And down here, we got this vertical plywood rack, which in my last shop I did not have. I used this plywood rack. Like I said, I had the forklift, so it made getting material on and off of that thing really easy. In this shop, this is more of kind of random storage, but the vertical plywood rack, we bring the plywood in and then it gets stored in here. You can see it's a mess right now. We've got tons of scraps and a bunch of stuff I probably need to get rid of. All right, so then this whole rack, I've got some slabs and stuff on these upper two shelves, and then I've got just some random plywood stored up here. And then underneath, this is all my install tools. So originally I thought about having this right at the front by the door, but the rack wouldn't work because of the garage door. So we moved it back here, so it's a little bit further to load stuff into the van, but it's not really a big deal. Then everything is tucked in and out of the way. I know a lot of you guys always ask about seeing all my install tools and install kit. One of these days we'll do a video on that and we'll get into what tools I bring on install to get the job done. So back in this corner is where we have the dust collectors. I also have a bunch of step ladders and my miter saw stand, but I also have the dust collectors back here. So I have two dust collectors. I have this Grizzly, I believe it's a 3-horse, and then I have a Maxiwa, same thing, 3 horsepower, double bag. So the Grizzly is set up to run all my machines in the middle, and then the Maxiwa is set up to run the shapers along this wall, and we'll kind of get into that more when I show you those machines. But these things, they work great for now. I would like to upgrade at some point to like a Cyclone dust collector or something like that, but these have worked really well for me. All right, so these are my 2 plywood carts. So these I use for all my cabinet parts. When I'm breaking down plywood, I can rip everything and then cross cut all my parts and stack them in here and stand them on edge, label the tops of them, and then it makes it easy when I go to assemble to just pick the parts I need and put the cabinets together. I stole this idea from a couple of different guys and kind of made my own version on Instagram. Saw these in some other shops, but they're really cool. I put some padding down on the bottom so that when I put the parts in, nothing gets damaged. And then underneath, I can put smaller parts if I need to. But these are really, really nice and make moving material around the shop really easy. All right, so here is my table saw outfeed table thing. I've got my regular cabinet saw here, and we've got the slider over there. So the way that I break down my sheet goods, I can pull a sheet off the rack, bring it to this saw, rip everything. I'll put them on those carts, and then I'll come around to the slider and cross-cut everything to size. So this was the first thing I made in this shop when we moved in, because I needed the saws to build everything else. So I made these cabinets over here. I've got a ton of storage here on the side. I've got another cabinet under here with storage. And then under here, I've got this cabinet with all my table saw accessories with wrenches and my angle finder and dado blades and stuff like that. Just keep everything accessible that I need right here for the saw. So this saw here, this was like the first real machine that I bought, I don't know, 6 years ago. It's a 3 horsepower Grizzly saw. It's been solid for me. And then that is a 5 horsepower Grizzly crosscut or sliding table saw. The reason I have the smaller one is because in my last shop I couldn't fit a full-size slider, but I did put this here thinking that someday I would like to upgrade to a larger slider where I would probably move this and then a large slider would fit right here in this area. Next to the table saws is the edge bander. Now this is here for a reason. When we're breaking down material, we rip everything, we cross cut everything, and then it comes here to get edge banded. Most of what we're making is Euro style cabinetry here, so everything gets edge banding. And this thing, I've had this for about 1.5 years. It's a Cantech edge bander, and it's been really, really good. Haven't had any problems with it. Really like this thing. We've got the cabinet up on the wall there with all the edge banding on it, so everything is right there. All right, so this whole area of the shop is where we mill. We mill all our own lumber for our doors and everything and face frames. So this is a 12-inch spiral cutter head joiner. We've got a 15-inch helical head planer. And then over here we have a 37-inch Powermatic dual drum sander. This thing is really sweet for when we do have face frame jobs, being able to put the whole face frame through. Or when we're making our cabinet doors, after we glue them up, we can run them through the sander. And this thing it saves a ton of time at the end of hand sanding with the orbital sander. You do still need to sand your doors with an orbital after they come out of here, but it's a lot less than if the parts were just out of the planer. Let's talk about the dust collection for these machines here. So when I moved into the shop, there was a wall going down the middle right here. Obviously we took it out. And so one of the dust collectors that we talked about before runs this whole line and runs for the table saws, the joiner and the planer, and the drum sander. I've got just blast gates at every machine so I can turn them off and on. And then this is a 6-inch line running to everything. And then it cuts down to 4-inch to connect to the machines. But in my last shop, I did not have a 6-inch line, and I was running 4-inch PVC to everything, and they were really long runs, and these dust collectors did not seem that great. And since doing this with the 6-inch lines, it is way more powerful and does actually a really good job. So I'm pretty happy with the dust collection on these. This back wall here is where we have our shapers and router table for making cabinet doors. We make all our own doors here. So I've got this router table that I made. I think it's 3.5 horsepower, the router. It's a Milwaukee router that's in there. And it's just got a straight cutter in it, and I rabbet the back of all my door panels. I put this power feeder on that was on this Delta shaper. I mounted it on here, and that just feeds the panels through. Then we've got this shaper here, this old Delta, and I think this is only 1 3/4 horsepower, but I do all my coping on this machine. Most of what we've been doing lately is shaker doors. So it's just a shaker door set in there. I've got this little sled, and I cope all my parts on this machine. And then we've got the big shaper. This thing is 7.5 horsepower. It's 3-phase. That's why I've got a VFD here to run this thing, because I don't have 3-phase power in here. So this thing has 220 going in and magically makes it 3-phase power. I don't know how it does it, but it does. And this thing is a beast. is awesome. So I really like this machine. I've got the Powermatic power feeder on here, which is really nice. And then the dust collection, I have that other dust collector hooked up running all these machines. So I've got a line along the wall in the back with a couple blast gates and hoses coming to each machine. A little bit further past the shapers here next to our workbenches and this whole wall, I actually just finished these cabinets. I do have a whole video on making all these drawers and stuff. So this wall here, I have the pocket hole machine built in. I do have it on wheels. I can pull this thing out if I need to. And then we got the line boring machine for drilling all the holes for our shelves and cabinets. And then these are all, most of these drawers are still just empty. I'm gonna try and get things organized and put away in there. And then this cabinet up here, I've got all my cabinet door sets and shaper cabinet door sets and router bits and stuff like that. So I just kind of keep all that stuff there. And then these drawers just have some random stuff in it. I've got routers in here, big routers in there. And down here is just kind of some air hoses and other miscellaneous stuff. I've got small routers and router bits in here, but this whole area, once I'm done edge banding my cabinet parts, I can come over here, put shelf pin holes in the cabinets that I need to, and then I can bring them right to the bench and start assembly. All right, so now we're to the workbenches. So this whole area is where all the assembly happens. So over here I've got my drills and my screws and hand tools and stuff in the toolbox. I've got this little cabinet and workstation over here. I usually have my laptop set up and my iPad. And that's where I can sit at the computer if I need to. And just random storage up there in the cabinets. But these are my workbenches. This thing I built when I moved into the shop, into the old shop about 4 years ago. I've got some big drawers on this side with some nail guns and dominoes and biscuits and stuff like that, stuff that I need at the bench while I'm assembling. And so this bench is obviously taller. That one is shorter for building cabinet boxes. It's nice to work on a lower bench, so I'm not like reaching up so high, screwing cabinets together. And then there's just a bunch of junk underneath. Same thing on the back side of this bench. Stuff that needs to get organized and put away into those drawers. Eventually, I want to rebuild this bench and do like a really nice torsion box and make it a really like nice workbench, but it works for now. And so this whole area over here right next to the benches is kind of just open for staging cabinets. After we put them together, we can kind of set them up here and mock things up. And I like to, when we're putting a kitchen together, I like to kind of put everything together and make sure it's all going to work. This is that open staging area. It's far back enough from the saw where I can have cabinets set up kind of pretty far out. So I left myself a good amount of space here as I'm building stuff to start putting it. And then on this wall, we've got my clamps. I have these clamp racks that I picked up on Amazon. I don't remember the brand, and they were pretty cheap and they work really good. This is my old joiner, 16-inch. I have it for sale. I actually have somebody that I think is going to buy it. So once this is gone, that'll be kind of nice. It'll give me some more room over here. I do have like 2 or 3 of these style carts around the shop. They're nice for stacking parts on and door parts and stuff like that. And then we got the bandsaw over here. It's a Grizzly bandsaw. Hardly ever gets used. And then right here, I built this cabinet. I've got a microwave and a toaster oven that I haven't used at all here. My house is like a minute away, so I just go home for lunch, which is pretty sweet. And then we've got the hinge boring machine. So this thing is on wheels, obviously, so I can pull it out and use it when I need it. It's got all my hinges and clips and everything I need for cabinet doors right in there in the drawers. This thing is really sweet. I've had this for a few years. It's a Omal. I don't know how you say it, but really nice machine. Cuts the hinge cups, obviously, and then it has this if you were using the hinges with the dowels, and it'll actually press the hinge right in. I don't use that feature. I use the inserted hinges that just go in by hand. right, so that's the shop, guys. I do have videos on most of the stuff that I built in here, like my miter saw station, this table saw, outfeed table, the cabinets over there, all the drawers I put in those cabinets over there. So check those out. If you have questions on them, let me know. One thing I do want to say is that for some reason I always get comments of people that think like I'm just a rich guy that's like a hobbyist and I have expensive tools. There's people with way nicer and way more expensive tools than me, and I'm not a rich hobby guy. I promise. I have I run an actual business, so that's why I have these machines. People get mad when I post a video and say, "Well, you've got all those nice tools." Well, I'm just showing what I'm making, so don't get mad. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully you liked the video. And like I said, if you have questions or comments or anything like that, leave them below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We do have the Patreon, which the link will be below if you want to help and support the channel. It is much appreciated. And that's it.